Okay, so this is the lesson that I'm going to discuss for this meeting. The topic, origins and growth of Confucianism. Ay, wait, it's mani. Sorry. Introduction to Confucianism. Okay, lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to determine the general historical background of Confucianism and give examples of acts showing filial piety, filial piety in the family, community, and society. Right, origins and growth of Confucianism. Okay, Confucianism has brought significant social and political changes in the world. The founder himself, Master Kong or Kong Fuzi, was born during troubled times in which wars, political turmoil, and many dramatic social changes took place in China. So, um, the origins of Confucianism was established during the time wherein there's political upheaval and chaos in China. So one can understand his life and teachings in the light of the political and social background that prevailed during his lifetime. So the founder of Confucianism, which is Master Kong, he established Confucianism. He produced his teachings in order to have a social and political stability during his time. Okay, Master Kong, 551 to 479 BCE, more popularly known outside China by the Latinized name Confucius, would become the most influential thinker in Chinese history. So, ang ito kasing Confucianism, it's not, although many people outside China believe that it is a form of religion, but the truth is, it is not just a religion. It's not more of religion, but it's more of philosophies. It contains wisdom, knowledge on how people should live their life. And mostly the teachings were based on the, the setting during the time of Confucius. Okay, his teaching centered on morality and its dimensions in politics, philosophy, and society. So as what I've mentioned earlier, hindi talaga siya uh, it's not really particular with religion, but it's more of philosophy, about politics, about morality. Okay. After the death of Confucius, his students and the succeeding generations of followers generated text and compiled different teachings. The Analect or Lunyu was the most famous of his collections of sayings and teachings. So uh, the collection has been the primary source of direct quotations from Confucius. So, yung Analect, ito yung the main source of the teachings in Confucianism. Okay, throughout several Chinese dynasties, Confucianism made Confucius a great impact on the political, social, economic, religious, and cultural spheres of Chinese society. So it has adapted itself to political and social demands while gaining positive influence and on some occasions experiencing breakdown, thus becoming flexible. So meaning it encompasses different or various disciplines, different fields in Chinese culture. Okay, during the Han Dynasty, Confucianism was promoted as a state ideology in which Confucian scholar officials laid the groundwork for the government systems. So, Confucianism used as a tool in government. It is used in order to call out government officials, those people in authority, to be responsible, to be accountable with their actions and decisions when it comes to ruling the society. ano yung mga policies nila. And it's not just that, it's also used in order to give the citizens or the ordinary people guidelines on how to live their life, how should they act, how should they behave, and how should they regard their self and other people. Confucianism has undergone reform over hundreds of years. In the early times, Confucius and his followers started a philosophy in the path of peace and harmony and made radical political and social changes. So its adherents or yung people who practice Confucianism experience persecution from different dynasties, meaning they experience hostile treatment from various dynasties and compelling them to adjust to the current needs of the empire, meaning what are the what were the requirements of the emperors during the time. Followers of Confucianism should follow their um, policies. So, moreover, Buddhism and Taoism challenged the foundation of Confucianism as a new form of Confucian learning, which led to the reformulation of the Confucian view of the universe, the society, and the self. So, since mas una kasi itong nag-exist itong Buddhism at saka Taoism. Taoism also known as Daoism compared with Confucianism. So, when na-inject itong Confucianism, nagkaroon ng uh, na ibang thinking naman yung Chinese during this time because the introduction of this different kind of system. These changes resulted in what is called Dao Shu, or the learning of the way, or Li Shu, the learning of the principle or reason, which became known in the West as Neo-Confucianism. So it's like there are changes, just like other religions. Itong Confucianism, it also experienced changes when it comes to the teachings because of the different interpretations of the followers. With the passage of time, Confucianism was characterized as a process of tradition when Chinese Confucianism was introduced to other East Asian countries to fit the local culture, beliefs, religions, and traditions. So just like any other culture, it also underwent the process of absorption, transformation, and other process when it comes to accepting and transforming culture and religion. Kasi mag-vary din siya sa culture ng specific geographical location since um, may factor yung geographical location when it comes to forming the culture of the people who live there. So the same thing, when they accept Confucianism, they mix it with their own culture, with their own beliefs. Kaya meron iba't ibang interpretation. At saka may changes yung Confucianism uh, from the origin. Okay, major sources of Confucianism and its tradition. Excuse me. So we have what we call Confucian classics. The five Confucian classics, revered as the oldest form of Chinese literature, are a vast collection of stories and precepts. According to Hubler 2009, the books are regarded as models of behavior and truth. Itong Confucian classics, this is used in order to lay out guidelines on how should people, especially the Chinese, how to behave, what's the truth that they should uphold, and what are the teachings that they should hold within themselves, and how should they live their life. First one, the Shijing or Book of Poetry, which contains the 300 oldest poems meant to be chanted or sung. So there are this book, um, it's meant to be chanted or sung. It's all about the experiences of common people, which refers about love, about work, and about war. Next one, There's the Sujing or Book of History. It contains documents about the mythology and history of China from the time of the legendary emperors to Confucius' time. So this book is sometimes called Book of Documents because it contains the historical events during uh, the previous emperors until the time of Confucius. So it also includes decrees or yung laws of the land. Meron din siyang speeches, advices from counselors, and other reports sa government. Next is the Chun Chi or Spring and Autumn Annals, con- which contains the history of Confucius' home state from 722 BCE to 481 BCE, 2 years before Confucius' death. So it's also about the history of the place where Confucius came from. Then the I Ching or Book of Changes is a divination or fortune telling manual that helps predict future events and understand human existence and natural occurrences. So this book consists of hexagrams, 64 hexagrams, and it's a combination of six broken and unbroken lines with accompanying interpretations. The next is the Liturgy or Book of Rites, consists of three separate ritual texts. It also concerns about the Zhao dynasty and its bureaucratic system during that time. Ano yung mga protocols, ano yung procedure on how should they uh, process in terms of government na system. Then we have four books, the four books. The four books serve as a scriptural basis for teaching Confucianism. So first is we have the Analects. So Analects, it was arranged by the disciples of Confucius. So after diba, just like the slide that I've shown earlier, after the death of Confucius, his followers interpret his teachings. So ito yung ito yung Analects. So it contains 497 verses which features Confucius' comments on specific problems or situations with pieces of advice or recommended solutions. So it talks about different situations, different problems, and it accompanies different suggestions on or advices on how should people what do you call it address those problems or how to solve those problems. Then we have Minji. It reflects Confucianism facing many intellectual challenges during the time of Mencius, a follower of Confucius. So he gave his personal views, the significance and meaning of some of the sayings and teachings of Confucius. We also have the Great Learning. So it is a guide how to become a true Confucian gentleman. So the word gentleman has a huge significance in Confucianism. So it's about self-cultivation. It's about self-progress, self-improvement. And the last one is the doctrine of mean. So it consists a series of essays and stories about characters pertaining to normality and centrality that conveys the Confucian ideas of moderation, balance, and harmony. So this is the doctrine wherein it refers to how people should behave, how should they act, especially when it comes to dealing with other people. And the overview of Confucian practices and virtues. Confucius' teachings may be divided into two parts. who is a good person and what is a good society. So, the teachings of Confucius centers on individual lives and the people as a whole or as a society. So, meaning, how could you how could you serve yourself in a proper way? How can you improve yourself? How can you be a good person? How can you be a good steward? How can you be a good neighbors? So it's about improving yourself, and also how could you treat the society, and how should the society behave as a whole. So who is a good person? Okay, Confucius enumerated the different aspects of self-development. You have the filial piety, the dutifulness, honesty and sincerity, rightness and knowledge, courage, understanding, sympathy, compassion, humanity, rituals, and the gentleman. So these are the virtues that a person should possess in order to be a good person. First is we have the filial piety. Filial piety refers to the respect and reverence accorded to parents, which is also extended to teachers and elders. So it means that Confucius is very particular with how we obey people in authority or those who are higher on us. So how should we obey? How should we submit? How should we pay respect to older people and to people in in higher authority or mga officials? In his the classic of filial piety, Confucius says a filial son serves his parents in the following ways. He offers them the utmost respect when at home. He serves them so as to give them the greatest joy. If they are ill, he feels the greatest anxiety. He is completely devastated at their funerals. When he sacrifices to them as ancestors, he is completely reverent. So, this is the suggestion of Confucius on how to be a good son or daughter to the parents. So Confucius emphasized this since for him it's very important that we should pay high regard of respect sa parents. So this is the way that we can pay respect to the parents. Pag nasa bahay, we should respect them, we should serve them, we should not give them problems, we should give them joy. So kapag magkasakit, we need to uh, take care of them, and when they die, we should mourn for them. We should be feel devastated of their death. So ganun siya. And after their death, we need to give sacrifices to them. Ganun siya. So if we can do these five things, itong na-mention dito, we can say that you you're able to serve your parents kapag nagawa mo ito lahat. Okay, in China, during the time of Confucius, many sons and daughters rebelled against their parents, and relationships among families of rulers disintegrated. So remember, Confucianism rooted from the time where there's political upheaval, political turmoil, economic problems, there's chaos in the time of Confucius. So it's one of the manifestations of the chaotic society dun sa time ni Confucius, yung a rebellion against sa parents and against sa government. So kaya Confucius emphasizes this one. So, according to him, if we're going to follow filial piety also, he treated this as like an antidote or yung parang cure kapag nagkakaroon ng family problems, if there's dysfunctionality in the family, if disoriented yung family, if there's broken relationships. So we can fix these problems in the family if we follow the filial piety. Confucians all over the world agree that the most fundamental relationship is the bond between parent and child. So, for Confucius and his followers, it's very important na magkaroon ng intimate relationship yung parent at saka children. So, kaya one of the teachings on how to be a good person, itong filial piety na grabe yung emphasis. So, so the parents should teach the children how to live their life and how to pay high regard to them. Um, they are responsible to build their bond. Parents should express their love towards their children, and they should develop a good family orientation inside the home. Then dutifulness and loyalty. A person's first duty is the respect and service he or she gives to his or her parents inside home. Dutifulness starts in the families. That's why itong filial piety and dutifulness and loyalty are connected. Kasi if we're going to if we're going to perform filial piety, meaning kaya mo to gawin tong dutifulness and loyalty, these specific virtues. So dutifulness, as what Confucius emphasized, that it starts within the family. So one should respect his or her parents, the older siblings, brother or sister, and it also extends to other members ng family, like sa cousins, sa aunts, uncles, or sa relatives. And you should pay high respect to the superiors within the family or officials na nasa government. During Confucius' time, one's reverence and dutifulness to his other feudal lord weakened, to the point that many lords would pay salaries or land to his or her followers in exchange for their loyalty. So during this time, nagkakaroon ng rebellion yan sa uh, mga employees sa kanilang employers. So hindi na sila ganun they're not that giving high respect towards their employee. So, kaya in-emphasize ni Confucius itong dutifulness and loyalty so that those people under one authority will be um, obedient, submissive, at saka may loyalty sa kanilang masters. Next is honesty and sincerity. According to Confucius, honesty and sincerity are important in the development of one's inner self. So, honesty and sincerity is not just about telling what is true, but it also delivering what one says he or she will do. Meaning, you need to keep your promise. When you promise something, it's very important that you need to do it. So, wag paasa dapat dun sa ibang tao na you promise to. So, this means that you need to keep your and fulfill your promise as best as you can. So, the next is rightness and knowledge. Rightness is knowing what is proper, right, and moral based on one's status and role as well as the specifics of the situation he or she is faced with. So, you need to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of your situation. So you need to disregard your personal gain, but you need to think what is right for yourself and what is right for other people. Meaning you need to balance that hindi ka dapat maging selfish. Excuse me. You need to be mindful of other people as well. So a person must not think of himself or herself, but go beyond your fears, your self-interest and desires. Okay, Confucius said, people who are born with knowledge are the highest level. Second are those who attain knowledge by studying. Third are people who continue to study even though they find it difficult. At the bottom are those who find study difficult and do not even try to learn. So this is the level of obtaining knowledge according to Confucius. So, gaining wisdom begins from learning from things that happen to people and from one's daily experiences. So, according to Confucius, according to his teachings, we can gain knowledge, wisdom, we can learn from yung formal educational system at saka our daily life experiences, the experiences we have in our life. So these are the factors where we can learn. Next is courage. When Chinese society was facing political turmoil during the time of Confucius, many civil servants and government ministers looked the other way, even if their rulers' actions were not morally right. So, kasi most of the people, they did not speak against um, the government because they have fear. They're fear that they're going to lose their political status, their wealth, at saka yung family, o yung uh, everything that they had that time, even reputation, even their title. So they're afraid to speak because they might lose everything. So they're compromising. Ganun siya. So para kay Confucius, it means that they lack moral courage. So Confucius said, "Know see what is right, but do not do it." This shows, sorry, to see what is right, but do not do it. This shows a lack of courage. So if you think that you saw something wrong, then you, as a person who witnessed that wrongful doings, you need to do something. Yun pa sa kanya. Real moral behavior requires courage not just in the political sense, but also in one's everyday dealings with other people. Confucius said, "Courage by itself is no guarantee of moral behavior. Courage in the service of morality generates the energy to carry out the moral behavior." So, para sa kanya, it's very important that we need to have moral courage so that we can speak our mind. Of course, we also need to be responsible of what we're going to say. Kasi ang nangyari doon sa time kasi, 'di ba, may political turmoil. There's problem with how the government officials handle the government. So, as kanya, if people saw the mishandlings of the officials, then they should speak against them. They should call out in order to have order in the society. The next is understanding empathy and compassion. Understanding empathy and compassion, or shu, means not doing to others what one does not want to do to oneself. So it's very simple and yet uh, prudent. Kasi if you don't want other people to be treat to be if you don't want yourself to be treated by other people badly, then you should not also treat them badly. So parang the same principle sa Buddhism at saka sa Hinduism na there's karma. Parang what goes around comes around. So you need to be careful when it comes to dealing with other people, when it comes to how you treat them. Kasi babalik sa'yo kung paano mo sila tinrato. Ganun siya. This message is simple. Others in the same way you want to treat you. So, kung ano yung gusto mong treatment from other people, how should they treat you? Then, that's how should you treat them also. So, if you want others to be good to you, then you should be good to them as well. So, we have humanity. Confucius helped people understand different virtues, but for him, All of these virtues are ways toward moral attitude, or ren. Ren originally meant handsome, manly, or man's man. So, ibig sabihin, this means that all these virtues lead to a person's humanity. Yung parang, you need to be human. To be human is being empathetic to other people, being morally upright, um, you possess virtues. Ganun yung humanity. If a person cultivates all the virtues and treats others with respect and kindness, what he or she does, thinks, and says are morally upright. The next is rituals. Rituals are distinct and unique to human society and are based on its beliefs, traditions, and religions. So Confucius divided rituals into religious rituals and noble etiquette. The Book of Poetry reveals rituals, particularly ancestral venerations, which include the laying out of grains and wine, invitations to the ancestors, and impersonation of the dead. So, Confucius also taught about the noble etiquette, like, for example, how a lord should enter a room before a duke, meaning how should you pay high regard of respect to your masters. So especially in social situations or in social milieu, okay, how should you properly greet them? In proper salutation. Ganun siya. So Confucius regarded rituals as important because they showed reverence to the descendant for his ancestors as well as reverence to dutifulness of a follower. So meaning, um, itong rituals na minimin ni Confucius is this is the way on how to pay homage to the dead ancestors. Ganun siya. It's the same principle yung sa Roman Catholic culture na yung every November 1 or yung All Souls Day, ganun siya. It's the same principle. It's paying respect to the dead ancestor. Tsaka meron silang specific na rituals ginagawa. Like as I mentioned, yung laying out grains and wine, impersonation of the dead. Then we have the gentleman. Ay, too many. Okay, a person who possesses the aforesaid virtues and practices his or her humanity and the rituals is called gentleman, a title based on birth and not merit. So, originally, itong gentleman, it's the title that you can gain based on your family position, meaning what's your family title, meaning inherited siya. But Confucius redefined what's the meaning of gentleman. So hindi lang siya based na makukuha mo because your father is a noble person, is a noble man, or may title or wealthy, pero based on merit also. Meaning, um, yung ano mo, like, you will do something in order to gain para ma-achieve or ma-obtain mo yung title. Ganun. Okay, for Confucius, a gentleman should lead a government because he thinks not of himself but of the common good. Kasi, di ba, itong gentleman, it's like you are possessing the most important virtues. Ano yung pinaka-importante? Meaning, you are considered as a good person if you are a gentleman. So, Confucius believed that gentlemen should be in a government position in order to properly handle the government system and the society as a whole. Okay, next is what is a good society? Confucius dreamt of a peaceful and good society ruled by good leaders. So remember, Confucianism birthed out of the political turmoil, economic problems, and upheavals during Confucius time. So, sa kanya, this is his dream since hindi niya na-experience during sa time. So, this is the system that he wanted to establish. Okay, first is setting words right. Confucius meant two things when he said to set the words right. Firstly, one must use the correct or appropriate word when speaking. Words are not used to hurt, belittle, or criticize others with impunity. Secondly, words have attached expectations about one's behavior. So, para kay Confucius, the words that we're going to say, the words that should come out in our mouth should not inflict other people. Thus, it should give blessings to other people. Meaning dapat positive yung lumalabas sa bibig natin para sa kanya. We should not belittle or we should not look down other people. We should not offend them. We should not criticize them badly or yung intention natin is to break or um what do you call that to distract other people or to damage other people. Hindi dapat ganon. So, sa kanya rin, the words that are coming from our mouth, lumalabas sa bibig natin, it say a lot about our personality, our character, our behavior sa kanya. Hmm. Okay, for the benefit of other people. Confucius emphasized that government existed for the benefit of the people. This means respecting and caring for people and ensuring that their basic needs, safety, and rights are provided. So, para sa kanya, the very function of government is to serve the people. Meaning, the government should be the role model for people, how to respect them, how, serve them, provide their basic needs, secure them, give them safety from intruders. Yung mga rights nila dapat na provide their basic needs. So para rin sa kanya, for Confucius, government leaders must speak clearly, must give words or speeches that his people could understand. Dapat madaling maintindihan ng mga tao yung government officials when they give orders. Ganun siya. So they're particular with suitable political and social systems. So you need to government officials should avoid giving people confusions. Next is the law. Confucius said that if only laws and just punishment were applied, people would either follow or evade them simply for fear of being caught, but they would never develop a sense of shame. So, para kay Confucius, people should have the initiative of following the rules, not because of the need to conform, but because they are convinced that it is for the common good, not just because for the sake of following the rules, policies, and ordinances, but it is for the common good. Kaya yung principle niya when it comes to law. Okay, models. People need to have a model of who a gentleman is. So, for Confucian, there should be people that will lead other people on how to be a gentleman. So they are the models. They're the ones that people should imitate with. So this will enable them to see how a gentleman should practice moral uprightness and virtue. And such model has the power to change other people's way of thinking and behavior. Meaning yung models, meron silang influence sa ibang tao. Then education without distinction. So in the Analects, Confucius says, education, there are no different kinds. So para sa kanya, education is for all. So whether they are slow learners or sages or yung mga matatalino or rich or poor, no one should be discriminated against. So even though yung education system natin ngayon uh, sa primary education, sa basic ed natin, yung principle is no child is left behind. So wala dapat mabagsak, ana ang principle sa system nato karon. Although it's new in the K-12 program, but actually it's already been practiced during the time of Confucius. I-practice ng inclusive education sa time ni Confucius. So wala dapat discrimination. Uh, whatever your social status is, you are poor, you are rich, you are, uh, you have the right for education. The next is women. Confucius recognized women and their role in the family and in society. So Confucius, he acknowledged their ability to perform their duties in the home, in the social milieu. So mas friendly itong Confucianism sa women compared with other religions. Kasi other religions are very particular with patriarchal culture or the the dominant male figure. But dito sa Confucianism, they pay high regard to women. Gina-acknowledge ang ilang role sa society. So, sa ibang religion, hindi sila pwede. Women are not allowed to participate in rituals and ceremonies. They are just bound sa household chores. Pero dito sa Confucianism, although they can also perform household chores, pero ina-acknowledge yung big role nila sa society. So, women. Next is the gods, spirit of the dead, and the afterlife. Confucius once said, to work hard to ensure rightness among the people, and while respecting the spirits, to keep away from them, this may be called wisdom. So there's wisdom, there's prudence when it comes to paying respect to the dead ancestors. The next is choice of heaven or the command of heaven and faith. Okay, during the time of Confucius, many believed that there were people chosen or commanded by heaven to live up to what it was required of them. For Confucius, he never understood well what heaven had commissioned him to do until he was 50. So, um, for Confucius, though he believed in yung it's like divine appointment, pero hindi niya na-realize yun until he was 50 na. So, and for him, there are chosen people that are commanded by heaven what is being required to do para sa kanila. And next is the way. Confucius used the term the way or Tao, which refers to an ethical, political, and civilized order. He says, I set my heart on the way, base myself on virtue, lean on humanity. So, um, in Confucianism, the centralized belief is that how should you improve yourself as a person? How should you be a good person? How should you treat other people? And it also emphasizes the they call it collective behavior, collective character, collective belief that the society should uphold ang Confucianism. So in Confucianism, it's not just about the religion, religious practices, rights, but it's about the ethical, the moral, and political guidelines kina-emphasize ni Confucius. So it's more of philosophies talaga kay Confucius. Hindi siya talaga for religion. Philosophy talaga siya. And that's the end of our discussion. Okay, so do you have questions, clarifications about our discussion, about our
None.
lesson?
None, sir.
None. So, mag-remind ko sa PT ninyo guys, ako na-receive pa lang kay Leslie. Just have to message me ha. Send nyo lang sa akin yung PT ninyo.
Sa world beliefs?
Ecology. Oo.
Anong, hindi ako bantayan.
Hala, nag-post.
May post ka?
Yeah, nasa PowerPoint.
Okay.
Diba I told,
Okay, right. Sorry.
nasa PowerPoint tong ano. Paki-check na lang diri ano sa nasa Schoology
Sir,
Geo.
sir.
Yes.
Pila minimum words sa to, sir?
Um I won't require minimum words, but you need to make sure that um the points that you want to discuss um in your paper, in your essay are clearly indicated. Dapat klaro siya. Ana lang ako. I won't require minimum words, but as long as you can explain well.
Yes, sir. Sige, sir.
Nasa check yung ano, Jeo, sa Schoology nandun sa wait lang ha, hanapin ko. Nasa materials, i-open yung learning materials. Wait lang. Sige, ito na ako nabutang. Yan, manlu. Kadugay mag-load. Nasa katong PowerPoint na Introduction to Buddhism, yung Theravada and Mahayana. Dito, ano ka, i-share ko ang screen ha. Makita yung screen. Nandito sa material section, punta ka sa learning materials. Tapos check mo yung Introduction to Buddhism, Theravada and Mahayana PowerPoint. Nandito. By the way, post ko na lang sa updates din ito. Okay na tayo?
Yes, sir.
Meron pang concern? Question?
Lahat na, sir.
Wala na. By the way, actually may continuation pa itong Confucianism kasi mahaba talaga ang lessons ng ano ng word religions. Mag-record na lang ko ha para so that we can proceed to the next topic, yung Taoism. I will record the basic teachings of Confucianism. Anyway, hindi naman masyadong mahaba ang basic teachings of Confucianism. Para next meeting, next Tuesday, we can proceed to introduction to Taoism na. Okay?
Wala ko pa na-post itong Confucianism.
Wala pa. Ngayon ko pa lang
Okay.
i-post.
Alright.
Okay. I think that's it. It's a wrap. So thank you for joining, guys. See you next meeting.